Hi everybody, Pterodactyl here, aka Mary Brown, or vice versa. Anyways, I thought I'd do just a simple walkthrough of one of my favorite decks. It is out of print, unfortunately, so don't get mad at me for that. But I've had this deck since it came out in 2011. This is the Ludy Lescot Tarot from Lo Scarabeo. I was able to get an extra copy, thank goodness, because I've been using this pretty constantly. I've done thousands of readings with this deck since I got it in 2011. And as you can see, it has some wear and tear, but it makes it feel really nice to me. It's just my favorite deck. At one point on the Facebook group, people were talking about their soul decks, and this is definitely one of them for me. And it comes with a little white book, kind of classic little white book. This is kind of cool because it tells the story of Ludy Lescot, and it starts out in the first person. My name is Ludy, and the publisher asked me to write something about myself and about this deck. My first deck of tarot was given to me by grandmother Rose on the day of my 7th birthday, and is a unique piece that I'm very fond of, drawn especially for her by a certain Adams, a friend of Pamela Coleman Smith, who, for those who do not know her, is the artist that drew the Rider-Waite deck. I believe Adams was originally from New Jersey, but had lived for a certain amount of time in Jamaica. He worked above all in advertising, but also loved symbolist painting. So I began consulting cards when I was a child, and little by little I began the training program that today enables me to observe the world with a new sense of awareness. It was Rose who explained to me that the cards are merely a tool that helps us to see inside our heart, and that the universe of the tarot is nothing more than the reflection of man and his surroundings. Following her death, I went for the first time to New Orleans and began to practice card reading on the streets of the French Quarter. I still have those cards, although now they are so filthy and faded that I no longer have the courage to use them. For this reason, I felt the need to take a pencil and transport those images into my world that, at that time, was truly permeated by the forces of darkness. To teach the light, you must know darkness. I did, and I understood that now is the time to give something back to the world. The figures that came to mind had profound roots in the pain that had hurt me so deeply. So for me, it was extremely difficult to succeed in creating the cards exactly as I had imagined them. Then, 2 years ago in London, in a small shop near the British Museum, I happened upon Initiatic Tarot of the Golden Dawn, illustrated by Patrizio Evangelisti and published by Edizioni Lo Scarabeo of Torino. Those images were not only splendid, but their style corresponded precisely to the one I would have liked for my tarot. I took up my sketches from these years, attaching a brief description of each card, and I sent them to Lo Scarabeo. To my great surprise, the editor accepted my proposal with enthusiasm, so that with those sketches and a pinch of magic added to the talent of Patrizio, this deck was born. Now it is moving for me to see these drawings that embody my personal interpretation of the deck created by Adams more than 80 years ago, a new life in an ancient symbolism. I would like to say just one thing to those of you who will be using this deck. The true challenge does not lie in knowing how to predict the future, but in knowing how to overcome your own demons in order to deal with our future wisely. I'm not interested in clairvoyance or even ominous events. Indeed, I firmly believe in the opportunity we are granted to understand what happens around us, and in the opportunity to decide our own destinies. I'm learning even now that life begins not when we know things, but rather when we are facing the unknown and succeed in taking a step forward. I created this deck to help people to see in the darkness. And then that's just the story in the beginning of the book. And like a lot of Los Scarabeo, I hear it pronounced all different kinds of ways, and I'm sure I'm butchering it, whatever I'm doing here. But I love their decks. But the cards, instead of saying like cups or chalices or whatever, they have the symbol on them. So let me just find, okay, so here is the Four of Wands, rather cheeky, get it, Four of Wands. And you see the symbol for the wands, and there's the symbol for the wands there. And instead of having that all written out, and then of course, like this is the Three of Cups, you get the suit symbol for cups at the top. You have that key in the front of the book that tells you that, and then the number at the bottom. And again, Three of Clubs. I guess I have a bit of a weird glare, but you can see it. Okay, so what else about the book? They talk after they tell after Ludy tells us her story behind the deck. There's a short section on, reading the tarot. I guess still coming from Ludy Lescot's point of view. She signs the letter when she talks about reading the tarot. I guess we should read that. Part 2. To those of you who wish to learn the art of tarot, I would advise a preliminary study of 3 fundamental concepts. The first regards the theory of correspondence, symbolic or real, visible or invisible, among all the components of the universe. The second concerns the idea of a living nature, because if there are correspondences throughout the universe, there is the possibility of a universal soul that causes these phenomena. The third concept concerns the presence of a mediation between the upper worlds and the lower worlds, ensured by the imaginatio. Actually, one must take into account the possibility of decoding through our imagination the symbols that express the correspondences of the universe. These concepts are closely linked to the idea of transmutation, or the practical application of the concepts of mediation and imagination, the practice of concordance, which implies the search for the affinity between various doctrines to access higher levels of understanding, and finally, the idea of transmission, or the transfer of teachings from a master to a student. I know that my words may seem obscure and complex to some, but those who truly want to understand must not give up at the first difficulty. The notes that follow are matches in the night. Don't burn your fingers. Blessings, Ludy Lescot, New Orleans, November 2010. It's just charming to me that this is in, the book. I don't know. Just fell in love with this. Short descriptions, major arcana, all of the minors. And then there's a spread called The Path of the 5 Houses. And then there's more, and it ends with a short bio of Ludy. Ludy Lescot is a young tarot teacher and esoteric who the luckiest and most determined of us might find the opportunity to meet, above all during the summer months, in the area of the famous Bourbon Street in the French Quarter of New Orleans. She has written various publications on esotericism, but rarely under her own name. Among these, she wishes to mention My Notes on the Craft, New Orleans, 2003. Ludy experienced unwanted popularity when some individuals from the world of politics and show business, when interviewed, revealed that they had consulted her. Some credit her with an incredible series of predictions that came true about events over the past decade, as well as disturbing predictions concerning the decade that has just begun. Ludy conceived of this deck for Los Scarabeo, bringing her personal vision of the world to an ancient structure that is brimming with meanings. Okay, so, it's kind of Ludy obsessive in the book, but it's wonderful. And it comes with a just a title card. I guess maybe that's supposed to be like a portrait of her. I think. Like I said, I got this when it came out. And this is, just how it was boxed. Your basic, fold top box. Which I stopped using a long time ago. I gave it in this little pouch that I just felt like kind of fit with it. And with a couple of crystals, clear quartz crystal to keep my deck cleansed and charged. And, this just really, I don't always keep it with this deck, but this really nice Mangano calcite. They call it the Reiki Stone. I don't know. I think the light kind of washes it out and it looks whiter than it is, but it's this real pale pink. It might be kind of hard to see, but it's wonderful. Okay, so let's just run through the deck, and I don't have these. So obviously I use these cards all the time. It is out of print. I was lucky to find a copy through the Tarot Garden online. tarotgarden.com, I want to say. I hope that's right. But they're great for being able, there were a few decks available, copies of it available on Amazon, but they were like $80 or something. And I just felt like, don't do that to me, man. So Tarot Garden's really great. This was like $25, I think, through them, and I was willing to pay that. So, they've had a lot of wear and tear, but, you can see they're really like velvety now. It's nice. They're kind of bent because I riffle shuffle, and every once in a while I'll, shuffle them backwards to kind of get the bend out, to start doing that. I have been thinking, since I do have a replacement of it, I have been thinking of edging the decks. There's not that much border. I really wouldn't even want to get rid of it, so I wouldn't trim it. But I might do something about except, like, I have a couple of these. Like, there's one card in here somewhere where the corner is missing. I don't know. But here, I just thought, since a lot of you may not ever have access to this deck, I thought it'd be kind of cool to just look at the cards, so it's kind of documented that there was a deck called Ludy Lescot Tarot, and here it is. And this is Justice, and again, it's not in any particular order. They've been freshly shuffled. Could actually look at it as a reading, but that sounds complicated, right? But so we start with the Justice card. And here we have the Ace of Wands. And I just love the deck. I love the artwork. I just do. And go from that into the Hanged Man. And the King of Cups. And this Ten of Swords, okay, he's not on his back, which I thought was interesting. Let me get that glare off of there. I have these colored lights in the background that kind of give those yellow splotches and stuff, but that's the Ten of Swords. Here is the Seven of Wands. And Four of Cups. Nine of Wands. Two of Pentacles. Queen of Swords. There, maybe not obscuring the card as much if I do it this way. This is the Wheel of Fortune. And the Seven of Swords. I love the Seven of Swords. It's like, he's not just, I mean, to me in that, it's like, he's not just sneaky. I mean, he's not just a thief. He seems like, he's really, like a mastermind, like, like so devious. He's got maps. He's going to steal the treasure, empty the vault, that kind of thing. And that's a star card. And here's the High Priestess. And I just I love that High Priestess. I love the sense of movement. I love that sort of, to me, it's like somebody terrorized by visions. It's what it looks like. Six of Wands. And King of Wands. And we have the Hierophant. In the Moon card. This is actually one of my favorite Moon cards. Nine of Swords. Yeah, it's like, it's not like I feel like I didn't choose this deck for the artwork. The only reason I chose this deck was because I heard the name Ludy Lescot in a dream. And I Googled it and spelled it wrong, of course. But then, this came up. And at that time, it was a deck that was just about to come out. And there were some early reviews, that came up in search. That's the Eight of Swords. And like New Orleans, and I, in the review that I read, it said enough about, the character from, like what I read in the Little Black Book. The review kind of quoted the same thing because it's charming. But, and it all just sort of clicked with me at the time, because New Orleans was my mom's favorite city on the planet. My mom had passed away in like 2000, and 10 years later I hear this name in a dream. I don't know, I just kind of felt like, that's the Death card, by the way. I just kind of felt like it's a sign. And really, it's like, this is just the best deck for me. And it's weird because, obviously, not all the imagery is exactly traditional. It's a bit of a Rider-Waite clone, but there's, so much room for interpretation when you have, like, especially the major arcana cards, like the Sun card that can, and I thought this was it reminded me of that song Blinded by the Light, the one that, nobody's quite sure what the lyrics are, right? Unless you look them up. We all sing our own version. Here's the Ace of Wands. Here's the Judgment card, which I think is kind of interesting. To me, it has that sort of Night of the Living Dead, or maybe Dawn of the Dead kind of feel to it, right? But that's Judgment. And here is the Knight of Pentacles. And isn't he, just a gentleman? He's such a gentleman. He's so charming. He's a gentleman. You can count on him. I don't know how exciting of a person he would be, but he looks like quite the gentleman, dependable kind of guy. And here we have the World card. And I love it. One of my favorite meanings for the World card is integration. When we bring things all together, bring things into our world and enter into this kind of sense of wholeness, sense of completion, right? And I think that that's a wonderful thing. It's also like, a couple who's like in their own bubble. They're in their own world with that card, So it's like, I think that's one of the things I really enjoy about the sort of unusual artwork in this, because it's like, it really brings up other meanings. It really is evocative. And there is a Strength card. It's weird because usually I prefer decks that don't have nudity in them, right? Because I like to read at events, and my goodness, so many people bring their kids to events for like tarot readings, and so like I live in a really conservative part of Texas. This is the Page of Wands, dapper young man, um, and so it's just like a hassle, to have to deal with like somebody complaining about that or feeling uncomfortable with it. I live in, yeah, very conservative, very churchy. So, a lot of decks that I have that have nudity in them, I will make them close. I did that with the Druidcraft deck. I've shown very few people because I'm sure they're like, oh my God, how could you do that? You prude, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it's like, if I want to be able to use a deck wherever I go, then, I fix it so that I can, and I mean, it's not like a moral problem for me. Okay, just moving on. I don't know. That was a weird, what do you call it? I digress. I had a teacher when I was at language school years ago when I was a teenager. They used to like go off on these wild tangents in the middle of class and be like, oh, but I digress. But here's the Six of Cups, and it's just sort of, I don't know, kind of creepy Six of Cups, you could say, in a way. And I think it's because it's like, to me, this is like a kid in sort of a clown costume, but with the makeup on his face. It's just sort of too much for me. It's just like John Wayne Gacy as a toddler. Like, what the heck? Anyways, but it's a Six of Cups, which, that's such a lovely card. And, I think usually I just, I don't know, block out the creepy clown, killer clown. But anyways, moving right along, literally, here's the Chariot card. They're going places. I love the sort of rose is dropping off the end. I mean, it is kind of a weird thing though, because it has sort of an ominous feel to it. I mean, it looks like maybe that's not her choice to be carted away. I'm not sure. And then we have the Five of Wands. Five of Wands on this one I thought was pretty interesting because it's like often, we can think of that card as like, maybe competition or kind of, one-upping each other, mock battling, even like arguments that don't have to be mock. But this also brings to mind that idea of like, struggling with yourself or maybe being like your own enemy in a sense, And then we have the Four of Pentacles, little miserly kind of depiction of the Four of Pentacles, which is fine. Four of Swords gives like a totally interesting, different take on the Four of Swords, especially with the blood running down. Like, if you think of that as a card of respite and, resting, that kind of stuff, this one might kind of, it gives a mourning feel to it, which is kind of interesting, even, a little bit violent, because obviously it's her own wrist that she's cut. I'm not sure. Anyways, it's odd. Eight of Wands, interesting, like the, running towards the setting sun, it looks like. And Three of Swords, the anguish, right? Something a little bit more cheery. Page of Cups, looks like a butler. Ten of Pentacles, this is kind of nice. I like this Ten of Pentacles. And one of the aces again with these women with these masks, right? The Ace of Cups. The Two of Swords. Four of Cups, or I'm sorry, this one's a Five of Cups actually. Five of Cups, and it gives more context. See the kind of shadow figure kind of walking away. You know, it's interesting. The Empress, it's a regal. The Two of Wands, oh, what to do, which way? That kind of feeling like she's at a crossroads, you could say. Three of Pentacles, I love the look on his face because he's like, why are you bothering me? I love it. And that's it. That's another aspect of this deck is it feels like, like you're having a conversation. Let's just put it that way. Knight of Swords. I don't know if you saw the wolf kind of at the bottom there, and the Knight of Swords. Oh, we have the Eight of Pentacles, working away, doing her, what do they call that? It's not sewing, it's embroidering. Looks like embroidering that she's doing, but with the figure of the male figure in the background. Gives more ideas maybe for that. And the King of Swords looks pretty serious. Eight of Cups. And the Temperance card. Different idea of temperance. We still have the angel behind. The Hermit with this lantern. Which is sort of similar to the Page of Swords. If you look at them, the way they're dressed, their faces are different. He has a mustache. He kind of has a mustache too, but I mean, they look different, but they're so, kind of like similar. I think they're related. They may not be the same person, but they may be related. Like maybe that's Hermit's grandfather or something. Here's the Tower card. Wow. And the Two of Cups. I love this Two of Cups. I just love the sort of flow of it. It's romantic. And the Ten of Cups. Again, with the figure in the background. It's like a figure of, two people dancing. What's going on? Nine of Pentacles. The self-made woman. Knight of Wands. The Devil card. The Devil card. And the Seven of Cups. Can't make up my mind. Kind of feeling. Queen of Pentacles. Ten of Wands is kind of a different, kind of take on the Ten of Wands. That's interesting, right? And the Ace of Pentacles. Six of Swords. And I love the Magician card. The Magician. Everybody's watching him. And this, I love the Nine of Cups too. Nine of Cups. Then we have the Knight of Cups. Everybody loves the Knight of Cups. And this is the Lover's card. I think the Lover's card's great in this too. Lover's card. You see like a figure of on a horse back here riding towards them. So it gives it an interesting thing. We already saw the Four of Wands earlier. And this is the Queen of Wands. And the Queen of Cups. And the Seven of Pentacles. The Three of Cups. The Three of Wands. The Five of Swords. I kind of do like that Five of Swords. I like the expression. The Emperor card. I love the Emperor card. I just do. And then we have the King of Pentacles. And the Fool card, which I love the Fool card. It's very whimsical. He's got a chicken instead of a dog. I kind of would have preferred a dog. And last but not least, the Five of Pentacles. I guess I just like the, about the Five of Pentacles in particular is the facial expressions, because I feel like, you definitely gives a sense of attitude, which really can be really helpful when doing readings. And again, this is out of print. If you can find one, get one. Check the Tarot Garden first. I don't know if this was the last copy they had or anything, or if they have more, but I was able to get this, I don't know, maybe, I want to say like maybe it was like 6-7 months ago, through them. So, and it comes with a little white book, and that is it. That's the Ludy Lescot Tarot deck. Be sure to like, comment, and share this video or not. Check out my playlist to catch up with the Tarot Today show. We've been doing a lot of great episodes lately. You can find old episodes of the Mystical Musing show on that, as well as media appearances that I've done on other channels or on other networks, and all our Psychic Talk radio shows of the episodes of the Tarot Today show, the Mystical Musing show, and There's Rock for That radio shows you can find by clicking on playlists. All right, have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.